Coming up tonight, the safety car, Drive to Survive. We have a sea creature in our midst. We've got L squared. We've got protests loading already. Driver comparisons. The word reliability is going to be used. And can you believe it? K-Mag and the Hulk are both back. It's going to be a very, very busy show. Welcome to the F1Pitbox.
They exist in a world beyond ours. This is Formula One.
Well, I tell you, breaking news that came out early on today. Gary Formato, Nico Hulkenberg, back in Formula One. Who would have thought that K-Mag sucked my balls and Nico Hulkenberg would be back?
Can you? Listen, K-Mag, I was very excited about that.
Yes.
To see that all happen. But listen, you know, it's with what's going on in the world right now. These reserve drivers are actually key. You've got to have a solid reserve driver. I mean, Hulkenberg's going to be, flown into that seat for this weekend, as you know, because Vettel's got COVID-19. So he had no mileage in the car, and it's new cars, as we know. We'll get into all of that later on. But it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult than it was when he was at Silverstone, and I can't remember where else it was a couple of years back, subbing for Perez.
That's for sure. It is a new era that is among us in the world of Formula One 2022. New rules, new drivers, new regulation, but the same old politics. 2022 looks to be pretty fascinating. I mean, we've had a chaotic off season, and I think a lot of it, Gary, has to do with what happened, I suppose, in Abu Dhabi. We'll get to that in a short while. I mean, the fighting hasn't stopped. Okay. However, let's just say, on a scale of 1 to 10, why are you at a 100 when it comes to excitement?
You know what? It's the most excited I've been for F1 since the last year of the normally aspirated engines, before we went to the hybrid era. I'll be honest, when the hybrid era came, I love Formula One, and we were totally into it. But this year, it's just unreal, because we've got these new cars, these new regulations that are just epic. And you've got to believe that there's going to be more people in with a chance this year. This time last year we sat there and said, it's probably going to be a Merc again. We were kind of right. Yes, Verstappen won the championship, but Merc was strong the whole year. This year, you don't really know. Look, I've got my pick, and I have my assumption as to who's going to be quick out the gates. But it's a year that is just, for me, Formula One's become Formula One again for some reason. I don't know what it is or how to explain it all. It's just really, everything about Formula One is just absolute pinnacle right now.
The buzz is just, it's phenomenal what's going on there. There's a lot to get through tonight, but when it comes to the technical rules, we could spend a whole program doing that. And I did a program a couple of weeks ago. So on the F1 Sasha and on the YouTube channel as well, just scroll down and you will see very detailed about all of the technical rules. Of course, we will test on some of them this evening as well. Now, we've had rule changes before. Okay, Gary, 2014, 2009, in the 90s, in the early 2000s as well. But this one seems to be quite different.
It does. And listen, it's a massive change. Look, the last time we had ground effects was 1982.
Yeah.
So now, this is the first time since 82. I remember when they were banned, Gilles Villeneuve got killed that year, the big accidents, and they banned ground effects. And it set Formula One on another course for the next, how many ever years, and that's what Formula One was. So, IndyCar had it and what have you. I think the thing also introducing sort of the front and rear wing, which is nice spec components. So, I think it's really going to come down to the finer details. It always has been, but the finer details, just who gets everything right, it's going to be key. But, we don't really know. That's the beauty of it, actually, is because you're going into this thing without knowing who's done it best, what's going to happen. We've had all these issues in testing, the porpoising of the cars. It hasn't been an easy run coming up to the first Grand Prix. So it's really about who can develop the fastest. It's the development race in terms of getting these cars ready for the first Grand Prix. And that's something we haven't seen at this level of intensity for a long time.
A long time. The evolution is going to be something really, really to watch during the course of this year as well. Budget cap is going to come into that, but we'll get through all of that during the course of this evening. Let's look at the bit of the news. Abu Dhabi lingers on like a nasty wine on your palate. And what were your thoughts? Okay, and what were your thoughts then at the end of Abu Dhabi? Because you know what, we know that everyone's sick and tired of it, but let's do the final bit of it, because I think after this weekend, people are going to forget about it. But what were your thoughts on what happened on that afternoon, and have they changed?
No, they haven't changed at all. It's exactly what it was in the afternoon. I think at the end of the day, from my view, Red Bull put themselves in a position that should the dice roll for them, they were going to be able to capitalize and take advantage. Mercedes-Benz took the defensive approach, and it went against them at the end of the day. The call with regards to Massey making the call that he made, whatever, even at the time I said nothing's going to happen. I mean, the FIA is not going to find against themselves. And that's where it's landed up. So yes, whichever camp you sit in, you're gonna. But it's been probably it was such a good thing for Formula One, because everyone's been talking about it. Everyone's going to be watching this weekend. So if you are the business of Formula One, it's just the best thing that could have ever happened to you. So yes, unfortunately Hamilton lost. If you're a Hamilton fan, for Hamilton, it was a tough break, no doubt about it. For Max, it rolled with him. It's just the way it goes.
It did. It very much did. And listen, I did a story about 2 or 3 days after the Grand Prix as well, which is also available. You can go and watch it. I stand by exactly everything that I said. And I echo the sentiment. I think Mercedes went very, very defensive during that Grand Prix. And, nobody expected anybody to crash right towards the end. And that's what happened. Since then, of course, Michael Massey has lost his job because of one word. And strangely enough, I know what it's like to lose a job over one word as well. But we do have some changes. There are amendments to the safety car rules for 2022. And let's have a look at them on our screen. The safety car, we now have Article 55.13, which reads, if the clerk of the course considers it safe to do so, and the message lap cars may now overtake has been sent to all the competitors using the official messaging system, all cars that have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap in the safety car. That's the only word that has changed. All as opposed to any. Okay. And just some clarification on why everyone got so upset about what happened at Abu Dhabi, and everyone says it manipulated the rules. It was a controversial decision, Gary. But, and there we go, it's on your screen, you can see now, any cars now is all cars. But there is an article in the Formula One sporting regulations, which is Article 15.3, which also allows the race director, to do whatever they want. Okay, let's get back to that picture of that slide. We'll talk through it and we'll just fix exactly what has just happened behind us. So I think get the safety car back there, Henk, and then we'll go through these rule changes. Yeah, Gary, I mean, just looking at that, leaders will be required to.
So I think it's, if you go back to Abu Dhabi now, all cars needed to overtake. Would there have been time for all cars to overtake? Probably not at the end of the day. And it certainly would have changed the result that we saw. But, they'd never been in a situation like that before. Massey made that call, as you said, controversial call. But, I do feel for the guy, to be honest with you. Look, I'll be honest, I'm not a big Massey fan. I think he made some really bum calls last year throughout the year.
Very much so.
It went against either Hamilton, Max, whoever. He'd made some bum calls, but... it was a job I'd like now. Forget about it.
No, I wouldn't like it as well. And I mean, now we've got three different stewards that are going to be looking after it this year. Now, another very contentious issue at the moment is a program called Drive to Survive. Gary, have you watched the new series?
I've watched a couple here and there. I haven't got through it all yet, to be honest.
Okay, so Drive to Survive is a show that Netflix have put together. And well, you know what, this is the 4th season that they're doing it. And it basically is behind the scenes of what actually happens in Formula One. Now, I've skipped through a lot of it during this new season, and I apologize for the breakup of the quality of the picture, but it's all coming down to being my fault. When it first came out, I think it was fantastic because it opened up the eyes of so many Formula One fans that hadn't really followed the sport that closely, and now all of a sudden they saw all this wonderful drama that was happening on the outside. This new season, there's added commentary, which is totally unnecessary. There is, Lando Norris has come out and said they're creating this fight between himself and Daniel Ricciardo. They've edited footage of the two of them actually bashing wheels. It wasn't even the correct race. Max Verstappen says he doesn't want anything to do with it. So there's a lot that is negative about this show. And what worries me the most about the show, Gary, is the fact that they are trying to create Formula One to be this reality TV show. And they don't understand what motorsport is about, how dangerous it is. And believe you me, if and when something nasty happens on a circuit, the Netflix people are going to be going, that's not in the script.
You can't sugarcoat that.
Yeah.
So
how do you see it?
Yeah, look, I mean, if I was in Formula One, would I be on it? Yeah, more than likely. I think if you are not Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton, look, Lewis is on it, but you probably want to be on it. I mean, it's only good for your profile. You're gonna be, you're shown to a world audience. It's what the teams, it's what the sponsors, it's what the everybody wants that sort of thing. It's all about getting it out there. But yes, it has gone a little bit to Hollywood.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
That's the word.
And maybe next year's series or this year's filming, they learn a little bit from what they've done and keep it a bit more real, because that in essence was what sold it in the beginning, was the fact that it was just real and behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But now when you're trying to add a little bit of theatrical license and what have you to it, it does take away a little bit of of what Formula One is about. So I think, and you can see the drivers, the team managers, everybody that's got involved also playing to the whole scenario now. It's becoming quite a thing.
No,
but it's been good for Formula One because, look, at the end of the day, I thought Bernie was a genius in Formula One. I thought, nobody can do it better than Bernie Ecclestone can do it. But I've got to be honest with you, Liberty, for example, the American market, they've cracked it wide open. And that was by doing things like Netflix and getting new channels open to Formula One. So it has worked as well. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, listen, as I say, I've also watched the MotoGP Unlimited.
I haven't watched that one yet.
And you know what? There's no extra commentary. They just let it work out, and you get. I think it's done a lot better than this new series of Netflix, Drive to Survive. Hopefully, for the next one, they won't have it as disjointed. Okay. Now we have L squared, Louis L'Arbaletier.
I don't know how to pronounce his
It's so beautiful. L'Arbaletier,
Yeah.
which sounds very French, but apparently it's not French. But Louis L'Arbaletier Hamilton, there we go. Her surname currently is Lockhart, but there we go. L'Arbalestier. Sorry, L'Arbalestier. And I think it's wonderful. The approach of adopting his mother's surname. I know that Sky News will make this a massive story, and believe you me, they will.
Yeah.
But we've got Fernando Alonso Diaz, and we had Ayrton Senna da Silva.
Yeah.
So it's not something new.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's something for a new generation.
Yeah, exactly. No, listen, whatever he wants to do. Listen, it's I just want to see the racing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you want to watch.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's going to be quite fun, them going through all of the names. Here is something that I don't think a lot of people are very, very conscious of it at the moment, and that is the penalty points. Now, penalty points in Formula One work on a yearly basis, so it's not seasonal. So if you incurred penalty points in August last year, it lasts until August of this year. And somebody who's precariously close to getting 12, and that's the maximum. If you get 12 penalty points, you are banned for one race.
Yeah.
Max Verstappen is sitting on 7 points.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to keep it clean. I think it goes, there we go, it's up there.
Where's it go to? That's the big thing.
Well, okay, let's have a look at here. Where's Max Verstappen? He's got to wait until the 12th of what's the 9th month? August. Yeah, August, until he loses only 2 points. So he's got to do the majority of the season without incurring any points. Nikita Mazepin doesn't have to worry because he's not there.
Okay. Yuki Tsunoda's right up there. And the other thing that's important to note there, Sergio Perez also won 7 points. You know,
exactly.
These two, we proved that they're going to. Perez knows what his job is, and he's going to be helping Max out. But Perez stands a good chance to knock on some points there, because if you are doing what he does and it's helping Max, he's going to be in positions and situations that can potentially give him a penalty point.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think Red Bull have got a couple of things that they have to be conscious of when it comes to these penalty points. So. Yeah, I think they're in for a hell of a tough time. Again, I do apologize for the picture, but there's nothing I can do about it at the moment. Okay, this year seems unprecedented amount of rule changes when it comes to the car. As I mentioned, there is a video that explains it all that I did earlier on this year. Suffice it to say, the cars are heavier. The wheels and tires are different. Gone are the barge boards. The front and rear wings conform to certain specs. But as I mentioned at the start of the show, the word that I think is going to be used quite a bit is reliability. Okay. Now, the power units, Gary, are frozen already. Everyone had to submit the power unit, the ICE, I can't even remember what it is anymore.
Also, there were so many of it.
Okay.
MGU, the risk good use,
all of those things. Yeah. Okay. That had to all be done by the 1st of March. But there is a chance to upgrade certain of the things before the 1st of September. The MG UK Energy Store and the Control Electronics. So if the teams feel that they're not really up to scratch with another team in terms of performance or reliability, performance, they might use this word reliability in order for them to hopefully go and find an edge.
But I think the big thing in reliability, if you look at the packaging of the cars this year, everybody's gone, well, mostly like Mercedes-Benz, a couple have gone radical in terms of the packaging. They're really getting everything. And I think that's where a lot of the problem comes. It's also new side pods, new aerodynamics, whole new way of looking at things. And that's where I think the challenge is coming from. Is, you know, it'll get better as everybody works things out. But right now, they're in a completely new space. You know, whereas there's also evolutions of cars previously, and they knew where they were, but this is something completely new. You know, you can't forsake downforce or ground effect. You know, it's really now you're finding yourself in this new realm now.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Before we discuss some of the testing that happened, the drivers and some of the potential protests already, let's have a look at the Formula One 2022 cars. Man, those cars are exceptionally pretty. And you know what is just so amazing, Gary? Last year when the FIA showed us their sort of dummy render car, and with the strict regulations that were coming out, you know, in a way you sat and went, oh, is this going to sort of look like IndyCar? Are they going to look the same? These 10 cars come out when they first show the light, like the proper, when the first tests in Barcelona. Every single one is different.
Yeah,
I mean,
completely.
it's just these engineers in Formula One are spectacular.
And I think that's what's piqued my interest, to be honest with you, because as I said, you want to know who's got it right. You know, there's very different approaches to the whole thing. You know, it's probably going to take everybody to a very similar lap time, but there's going to be somebody that's just got that little bit extra. I think I know who it is, but let's see.
We'll get to that in a short while. Lots of people going, Ferrari is a beauty. Listen, loads of comments coming in, so fantastic that you engaging with us, and we'll try and get through it. McLaren 36 is hot. Ferrari Alfa Romeo looking very, very good as well. Let's go through just some of the different interpretations in terms of the rules. First one we're going to look at is McLaren versus Haas, and also two very, very different kind of concepts and ideas. Just waiting for that picture, there we go, to come up. As you can see, Gary, very tucked in with the Haas, very wide on the McLaren.
Yeah. And it's how they're getting that air to work and to flow over the car, and also to add to the ground effect. Remember in the old days, if anybody's old enough like us, you remember the good old days with the the ground effects. You had skirts on the car to keep the air underneath the car and channel it out the back. Now they're trying to do it aerodynamically and send air back over the edge of the car to actually act as a skirt. So I mean, these guys are really now pushing everything to the limit in terms of what they can actually do now with the aero now.
It really is quite astounding. Now that, don't forget, was a render of the Haas car, but it does look quite similar to that. Then we get the Haas versus the Aston Martin, and when Aston Martin came out, Gary, I mean that was like, wow, look at these vents down the side, and we'll pick it up now, and you just sit there and go, sure, that's quite extraordinary. I mean, look how wide it is compared to the slimness of the Haas car.
Yeah, exactly. And when you saw it at the launch, it was spectacular. You thought this team's arrived, but in all honesty, in testing, they battled a little bit.
Well, we're going to get to that, because I do believe they are my problem child at the moment. Then you got to look at the bigger teams. Let's have a look at Mercedes versus Ferrari, and look at the difference, especially now with the Mercedes that has got the no pods on the sides, and a very, very interesting little mirror, which we'll discuss a little bit later as well. But a radical design from Mercedes that came out not in Barcelona, but in Bahrain. Yeah. But amazingly, with this car, quite a few teams, including Ferrari, sat there and said they had investigated, and Haas actually said one of their first designs was a no side pod, and they decided they could optimize the car as it evolves better going with their current design. So Mercedes might have something, more than likely have something that we don't know.
Yeah, well, listen, and it may not rock up to the race this weekend. They might arrive with something totally different. You don't know.
Exactly. The last thing we're going to look at is Mercedes versus Red Bull, because I mean those are the two. Yeah. That was the fight, and Mercedes and Red Bull. You still got to say the top two teams. Oh, you know what? We're just going to leave that. I'm just going to leave that now. Also, with the Red Bull, Gary, it seems to be one of those cars that you just got to believe that Newey and his team have done their maths.
You have to believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, the biggest change to these regulations has been aerodynamics.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, Newey is an absolute genius when it comes to aerodynamics. You got to believe that Red Bull are going to have something, something special.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But we did see something at the testing between the Mercedes and the Red Bull. The Red Bull was crying, okay? Yeah. It was leaking. We'll get a picture. And the Mercedes was melting. And that was something that they were worried about. Take it away, my love. Thank you. No. We're going to just carry on without that thing. Yeah. Okay, so there we go. Leaking. And this, Gary, I mean, with all of these regulations, it's quite amazing because we have a cooling issue with these tight engine covers, radiators not getting enough air, not like the last year with barge boards and much more open vents. This is cooling is going to be a bit of an issue.
It is, and as I said, they'll iron it out. But I mean, we're going to Bahrain, first Grand Prix, and that's going to be pretty hot over there. And just how far will the teams have been able to go in order to get get it all sorted out? And that's going to be the big question at the end of the day. And I think, as you said, if you're not coming out firing on everything and you haven't got everything sorted, you rather finish and score points. That's going to be critical at the end of the day.
And I think when it comes to this first race, that's definitely going to be one of those. People are going to be looking for points. But we do have one well, there we go. You can see this was the Mercedes team just putting a decal over just to see the kind of heat. And don't forget, Bahrain, a lot hotter than what it would have been in Barcelona. So definitely some issues, but clearly we're aware of it as well. And I agree, we might see a Barcelona Mercedes as opposed to a Bahrain Mercedes.
Rather finish the race. Finish the race.
Yeah. There is a contentious issue already, and it's not the side pod, the no side pod Mercedes, it's the Mercedes mirror system. Now we need to have a look at this mirror system that they've done. And it is very, very contentious because the FIA, head of single-seater matters, Nicholas Tombasis, has suggested that the issue right now was the wording of the current regulations has left some ambiguity about whether or not certain body work is or is not part of the mirror design. Okay. In theory, the mirrors are not classified as bodywork, so according to the F1 technical regulations, their aerodynamic influence must be incidental to its main function. Earlier on today, Gary, the FIA have come out because they met on Tuesday and have said, no, the mirror is legal. However, it hasn't ended there. Mattia Binotto from Ferrari has sat there and he wants more clarification on it because in 2018, Ferrari had a mirror system where everyone else complained about because they thought maybe it's got an aerodynamic effect. And that mirror got banned. This clearly doesn't look like just a mirror.
No, it doesn't.
It's got to have some kind of effect.
Exactly. I mean, and every little opportunity is going to be taken advantage of, and they're going to do whatever they can. So, listen, I think we may see a couple of things cleared up with these new rules as the season goes along. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, that's what happens in Formula One. Everything evolves. Never mind just the teams. The sporting regulations evolve. The technical regulations
never
evolve.
stops, let's be honest.
And also that booklet is so thick, eventually people are going to say, but hold on, give us a little leeway here or cut us out there. But I don't think that is the end of the Mercedes wing mirrors. No. That's for sure. The side pods, of course, has been a massive talking point since it arrived in Bahrain, the no side pod Mercedes. And as mentioned, Günther Steiner from Haas said they had the same concept in their first draft. It has come out that it is not illegal, contrary to what some people thought Christian Horner said, which has been denied by the team as well. But just look at that graphic. I mean, the difference between the Ferrari. I mean, it's crazy.
Two completely different concepts.
Yeah, totally.
Just totally different concepts there.
And also the wonderful thing that has come out from also Tombasis from the FIA, Gary, is saying they didn't even expect these extreme interpretations of all of the rules. And everyone has to look at them. But the crazy thing is, if you look at the rear wing and the front wing, there isn't that much different. And you mentioned earlier, those things they're saying, guys, you can't play too much. From there, you've got to make everything else happen.
And I must say, I like it. It's, when you start talking about very regulated or spec components or whatever, people go, it's like a GP2 car, or a Formula 2 car, whatever it is, Indy car. But, you've got to also put the brakes on it somewhere.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think we've just shown us that the development that's available is massive. And if it's going to make racing better as well, that's that's what also is key to this whole thing. And then I think that's been a big consideration in these new rules, huge consideration in these rules.
The one other thing that has come out is the stiffness of the floor. Most of the teams worrying that the floors aren't rigid enough, and now all of a sudden we're going to go back in '94. Remember when Schumacher and the Benetton, because the floor scraped
as well.
the floor scraped, and all of a sudden the car was underweight. These things could happen.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's all carbon fiber, so you're going to have carbon fiber shards all over the place. And out of all of the 10 teams, just by the way, only Alfa Romeo managed to get their car perfectly at the weight, minimum weight. Okay. Every other team was overweight, and now all of a sudden, 3 more kilograms added to the weight.
Listen, it was going to happen. It was just always going to happen, and it's unfortunate when that happens, because the last thing you want to do is be going up in weight, because the whole thing is to take weight off. But you've got to make the playing field level, and starting where we are, you just got to do it.
Agreed. One of the terms that I haven't heard in many, many years, and when I did hear it again, I sat there and I went, I have heard this word, but I can't really remember. And it's a wonderful sea creature called a porpoise.
Yeah.
The cars have been porpoising, and that basically is a violent motion, Gary. Cars bouncing up and down because the air gets stalled.
Yeah, stalled and falls, whatever it does, and just not consistent.
Yeah,
and
it's not only just in single seaters. It happens in any form of
It happens in all kinds of racing, but this is, just you've got so much aerodynamics involved here in single seaters in Formula One in particular, that when it goes wrong like this, you can just see it. It's just, and remember those cars. There's hardly any suspension travel in them. So for the driver to be sitting in that, it's just something you've got to fix. You can't really carry on like that. And
that's basically what it looks like.
It is. It's
Well, Gary, drivers have come out there saying, they're thinking they could lose their teeth. Some of them are saying there's no ways they'll be able to do 70 laps flat out like that. So, but a lot of the teams have come out. It's not a major thing to to sort out. Ride height is one of the aspects. Only problem with that is then it affects all of the geometry of the rest of the car. Red Bull apparently have got a new rear suspension that they're working on, and Alpine say that up to 250 kilometers an hour they can switch it on and off. Okay. So they've got something, and it's not what George Russell had suggested, and that was active suspension.
Yes.
Which I think would that would just defeat the whole the whole object of all of these new rules. But porpoising, it seems to be a very, very big issue for all of the teams. Okay, there's been a huge amount said during the official tests, and it would be naive to believe that there is any one team now that has any kind of advantage. I think you can look at consistency, reliability, those things, but I don't think you can really sit and go, bang, one of the teams has got it. But there's always Mercedes who come out with their wonderful pearls of wisdom. Lewis has come out with one that came out just a few days, Gary, saying, no, there's no chance they're going to be in to win. At the moment, I don't think we'll be competing for wins, but there's potential within our car to get us there. We've just got to learn to be able to extract it and fix some of the problems, which is what we are working on.
Copy paste every year.
Control, paste. Yeah, control, copy. There we go. He also played down Mercedes. He was at an expo in Dubai, coming out and going, here we go. Just have a look. From what I can see today, Ferrari will probably be getting a 1-2. Carlos Sainz, typical Mercedes, just hype up the others and then come to the first race and blow the competition away. It's not our first rodeo, Gary. We've watched many seasons of testing.
How many? 22 or 23 to be exact.
20, it's our 22nd season together.
Gee whiz.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
I'm not convinced by anybody's comments, and especially anything that comes out of Mercedes. And I have factual proof as to why I'm not convinced by anything that comes out of Mercedes. And I want to show you this graphic, and that'll explain to you exactly why I don't believe much that comes out of the words of Lewis Hamilton or Toto Wolff. This was day 4, 31st of January 2014. Mercedes, 5th position, 2.5 seconds off the pace. Last day of testing before the Formula One season started.
Yeah.
I leave that there.
Yeah.
We know what happened over the last
exactly.
8 years.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. However, I think we do need to look at some of the times that happened over the pre-season testing, especially what happened in Bahrain. It gave us, I think, a little bit more of an indication compared to Bahrain. And one team that would be very, very happy with what happened, I suppose, would be Mick Schumacher and the Haas team.
Absolutely. I mean, look, mixed. What compound tire was he on?
He was on the C3, so it wasn't as though he was on the.
And Max was on the C5 at that stage, or C3 as well.
C3, yeah.
So look, I mean, if they gained that half a second by running in the evening, under lights instead of the sun, you know what? That's probably what the gap is. So that's actually a pretty damn good time from Mick Schumacher.
Pretty fair reflection. Years ago, you would sit there and go, Haas creating the times to look for sponsorship, and we'll talk about them in sponsorship. So you could be forgiven for going, maybe they're looking for sponsorship, but this is not of the days of the Prosts, etc., etc. That was a proper run from Mick Schumacher. For the rest, you can't really read too much. George Russell there up in 5th place. You've got the likes of Lewis Hamilton all the way down in 17th. It's not a true reflection, but it's what the teams have to go out there and try and experiment with. Reliability was crucial in this.
But I tell you what, I will mention something here. I mean, 6th place, Valtteri Bottas in the Alpha. That wasn't bad. Yeah, I know the time, but not bad to put the car down.
Yeah, not bad at all. And I think he's going to do wonders in that team. Speaking of which, before we look towards this weekend, let's go through the driver pairings, go through a little bit of how they performed in testing, and our prediction as to who's going to be the better of the two. Let's start off with Alfa Romeo. Of course, Valtteri Bottas coming from 5 seasons at Mercedes, also very, very good career at Williams. Teams up with Wang Yu Zhou, first Chinese driver. I mean, this is one in like 1.5 billion. Competent, very, very good in his Formula 2 seasons. I think this is a really, really good pairing, Gary. I'll go as far as to say I think it's stronger than Giovinazzi and Raikkonen, although Wang Yu Zhou is an unknown entity at this stage.
I think so, and I think we'll take a bit of time. The one thing that Alpha hadn't had on their side during testing is laps to compare to everybody else. So, as a rookie coming in, you want as many as you can get. So it's always going to be tough for these guys, certainly the first part of the season. But I think also a great opportunity for him because to teamed up with a guy like Valtteri, who's been in a World Championship winning team for the last 5 years, can only teach him a lot. So I think the team's looking good. Yeah,
I think so as well. And I think Valtteri will bring a lot of that knowledge from Mercedes in the sense of maybe just systems to Alfa Romeo. So I think, watch out for them, especially the first couple of races. Next, Alpha Tauri. I must be honest, I think probably one of the prettiest and best overall packages that we've seen in terms of their car. Yuki Tsunoda with his 8 penalty points, and Pierre Gasly, who you got to believe if he performs, Gary, the way that he has in the last 2 seasons, he'll go straight back to Red Bull, or he'll even go better.
Well, yeah, correct. So maybe or another works team, But yeah, I think Yuki definitely a quick driver. But you know what? I mean, you look at guys like Michael Schumacher, Max. These are the really top guys. I mean, they were organised, and they got into Formula 1. They organised it, did the thing. I think he's got there quite easily. I'm not saying he's not a talent. I'm saying that he can drive, but I doubt I doubt the rest of the package. And I think that's where if they can develop that, then you've got something good in your hand.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because one of the things that I did notice on Drive to Survive is where they focused quite a lot on Yuki Tsunoda, and you remember he was based outside of Faenza. I think he was based in the UK, and eventually they said no, and they brought him in, Gary, and they sorted this kid out. He wasn't interested in training. Couldn't care about anything, and all of a sudden he started training, got into it, started doing it. His results improved as well.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think he did get there a little bit with his bum in the butter.
Yeah.
He's learnt the hard way, and they've sat there and said, if you want to go further, you play by our rules.
Listen, it can change. We've seen it happen
Yeah.
in sports before. People's dedication and understanding of what's required changes. But it's for me. That was the big thing for me. You know, to say he was unfit and he needed to.
Yes.
Geez, this is the modern Formula One. Everybody knows it. You know what I mean? So, well, how do you walk in there without being super organized? You know, so I don't know, just to make any sense to me.
Well, let's see. He's up against it against Pierre Gasly. Next team, Alpine with El Plan. They have El Plan for Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon. A win last year for Ocon against all of the odds. The Renault engine, Alpine engine, we still, if anything, they're saying they think it's a little bit down. They don't have another team with them to try and help them. And this engine is frozen, Gary.
Yeah.
So on the positive side, Otmar Zafnauer going to the team, I think will definitely assisting BWT. And by the way, the cars will be pink this weekend, and in Saudi Arabia there afterwards they'll go back to their traditional colors. Ocon versus Alonso.
You know, Alonso is definitely very much at the end of his career, but still super fast. And Ocon, you know, let's see. I mean, he's had a couple of fantastic outings last year. Let's see. I just think the team, unfortunately, I think this was going to be their year to arrive, and that's where Alonso, went with the team. He knew he's coming to the end. And this year was going to potentially be the year where they could do something. I think they've had too many changes at the top end of the team. They just haven't been consistent enough. Cyril Abiteboul was there, then he was gone, and now I think that's going to let them down.
Okay, Otmar Zafnauer. I'm going to talk a little bit now about him as we get to our next team, and this to me is my problem child, Gary. Aston Martin. The reason for Otmar Zafnauer leaving seems to be under a bit of a cloud, and the way that I see it, you can't have two.
Well, when Martin Whitmarsh arrived, the writing was on the wall. Let's be honest.
There we go. So you have Whitmarsh, Lawrence Stroll, Otmar Zafnauer. To me, they're too many cooks.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think if Lawrence Stroll wants this really to succeed, he really has to let Whitmarsh do his own thing. And I think Otmar sat there and said, listen, you're not letting me do this. Too many cooks spoil the broth.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sebastian Vettel, unfortunately not racing this weekend, has been diagnosed with COVID, so he's out. You got Hulkenberg that's back. They came out with so much potential, I think, in Barcelona, and then they haven't done the mileage, Gary. The things just don't seem to be 100% right. I'm a little bit concerned for this team.
Yeah, look, I think it did testing a disappointment. As I said, they'd launched, you saw this car, it was amazing. You're like, wow, how's it going to work? But it hasn't really worked for them. I think on the driver front, I think Lance Stroll really did well against Sebastian Vettel last year.
Well.
Coming under a lot of pressure in his career for being a pay driver, and dad owns a team and what have you. But at the end of the day, he's a quick driver. One of the few pay drivers that was actually sort of made it work. Let's not forget people like Niki Lauda also paid to get into Formula One, but made it work from there. But I think he's quick enough. Is he world championship material? I don't know. That's the big question. But listen, his seats are safe no matter what. So
yeah, there we go. And of course, they got a new team principal there as well. Whitmarsh looking over seeing everything, but they've got Mike Crack. There's a bit of a funny name, but he comes BMW, good pedigree. Let's see. We saw what Andreas Seidel has done with McLaren, the Germans, bring them in. So let's see what Mike Crack can do. All right, the next team, lot has been spoken about them over the testing period. They've come out with a radical design as well. Car looks extremely pretty. Red Bull are saying that they're quick. Mercedes saying that they're going to win the first race. That, of course, is Ferrari. 2 years, Gary, they haven't won a race. We all know that 2020 was a disaster. 2021, they improved. They got a lot better.
Yeah.
They have an unbelievable driving pairing. I think most probably the two of the drivers that are closest to each other.
Yeah.
And that could actually be a bit of a spoiler for them.
Absolutely.
But these two guys are really going to push each other hard.
You know what? And I think for Carlos Sainz, that was for me one of the drivers of the year last year. I mean, he beat Leclerc in the championship, and he had a very much a stipulated number 2 contract last year. But then that's gone. He's now
totally
there's no number one. They have equal treatment in the team, and I think he's really excelled. Leclerc is quick. We know he's quick. Look at Monaco last year. We put that car on pole. If it goes well for them, there's no doubt that they can be fighting for wins. But the car looks beautiful. Maybe just because it's a Ferrari. But it really
does look good.
Beautiful.
No, it looks really
good.
And
I hope, listen, a strong Formula One also needs Ferrari in the title fight. I mean, you can only imagine you put another team like Ferrari in amongst the top two, it's going to be something outstanding.
The one thing that they've come out, and that is with the engine. We know that the engine got better and better. This year's a brand new concept for them in terms of the engine. They managed to do all of the testing with one engine, and they don't believe that thing was turned up as well. Reliability could be an issue because it is a brand new engine. They say that they found the horsepower that they were lacking or behind from Honda and Mercedes. But my question is, so if they've caught up the 25 horsepower to last year's Mercedes and Honda, what about this year's Mercedes and Honda? And that's my biggest concern.
Well, that's the thing. And what was everybody running in testing?
Correct.
You don't know. You just don't know. So we need to wait until Saturday afternoon in qualifying. That's when we're going to really understand where everybody's actually at. Nothing like Jody Scheckter always said, when the flag drops, the bullshit stops. And then we're going to have to wait till Sunday afternoon for that to all happen.
Yep, can't wait. All right, next team, of course, Haas. I think, after last year, so difficult, no development whatsoever. And, I mean, it seems as though every time the phone rings in Haas, it's just bad news. They've lost their sponsor due to this war that is happening between Russia and the Ukraine. They've lost their driver as well. Reintroduction of Kevin Magnussen, who we've spoken about it right at the top. I think this is the best thing, with the greatest respect to the Mazepins and what has happened. I think it's the best thing that could have happened to Haas. I think it's a brilliant benchmark for someone like Mick Schumacher. And Gary, there is a different vibe within that Haas garage right now since the Mazepins have left and since Kevin Magnussen is coming. Watch out for this team, and I predict to score points this weekend.
Well, if they score points, I want to have a beer on them because it'll be outstanding. They, as you said, had an extremely tough year last year. I think a very popular team, just in terms of F1 fans. I think Netflix and Drive to Survive has also given them all that platform. But I was just saying, Kevin Magnussen's a racing driver at the end of the day.
Love him.
And I think Mick Schumacher, we all knew that his second year was probably going to be the year when he really started to shine. He had some great performances last year. I think he's pretty damn good. And I'm quite happy, to be honest with you, that Mazepin's out. And purely because it was a real pay driver scenario, and this guy was there, but he actually didn't deserve to be in Formula One. It was as simple as that.
And also, Gary, you know from racing as well, the first person you got to beat is your teammate. So if you sit and you both got rubbish cars, all you want to do is beat your teammate, and you're only going to drive that fast to beat your teammate.
Correct.
So now the thing is, he's got a proper racing driver with him. I think these two are really going to do exceptionally well, and I hope Haas find other sponsors. I don't think they're going to have money issues, but it'd be great to get them, right up there when it comes to the budget cap.
Well, Sasha, sorry, just to interrupt you there. I mean, if you can score a point or two or whatever, it's worth big money.
Huge money.
So all of a sudden that business starts to make sense.
Correct.
Put a couple of sponsors into place, and things look different. They've had a tough time with sponsors. I mean, that crappy deal with Rich Energy.
Now with the Russians,
pretty something similar now.
It's been horrible.
They need to get some genuine sponsors on board there.
I couldn't agree with you more. All right, a team that also looked so good in Barcelona, but then I've got to be honest, the wheels seemed to fall off when it came to Bahrain, Gary, and that is McLaren. Couple of issues that they've got. Number one, brakes. They say they seem to have sorted it out. We'll have to wait when it comes to free practice and then, of course, to the race this weekend. Plus, on top of that, Danny Ricciardo, yes, he is in Bahrain and he is going to race. He did no testing in Bahrain last week due to COVID. So these guys are really very much on the back foot. And it's the worst thing that could happen for Danny Ricciardo, because you got to believe that he's driving for his career.
He was already playing catch up to Lando last year, and he didn't need to start off the season like this. Listen, McLaren's a team that I really would love to see going. I mean, I loved it when they won in Monza last year. I mean, I've really been enjoying them, dragging themselves back up to the field and to winning position last year. So I'd have to say I'm a bit of a McLaren fan.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
you know, I want to see them doing better than they've possibly done in testing.
Yeah, let's hope they fix these issues sooner than later. Then, of course, 8 times constructors champions in a row, and that, of course, is Mercedes-Benz. Lewis Larballestier Hamilton. And of course, George Russell, it was inevitable that he was going to be promoted. He already, and this worries me a little bit, he already knows how to talk the PR speak. Oh, it's the orange car and the red car. No, you know, it's a McLaren or Ferrari, George. Big deal. Come on. You know, just be there. I think he's up against it. I think he's a fantastic racing driver. He's proven himself, and he did brilliantly for Williams. But I think he is really up against it against Lewis Hamilton.
Well, you know, I think the last year was probably the worst thing that could have happened to Russell, in the sense that Hamilton's, I think, going to come out firing this year. There's no two ways about that. And you know, there was big talk. Obviously, Bahrain, when he led the race and he won the Grand Prix, you know, beat Bottas and whatever, he was like, you know, but it could be the case. But for some reason, after testing, I'm just not getting that feeling. You know.
No, me neither. I got to be honest as well. But they're there, and believe you me, the car is not going to be that slow this weekend. Then, of course, the world champion Red Bull Racing this year. The team that the two drivers they had last year, Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, and this weekend apparently Max is going to have new things on his car, and then Perez will get them the following week. Perez is there just to basically back up Max. Of course, he's going to race as hard as he can, but you got to believe he'll be looking, Gary, for another drive somewhere, because Red Bull are going to want to bring a Gasly in if they can.
You know, yes and no. I mean, my opinion is slightly different on that one. I mean, they're really good. The only thing counting against Perez right now is his age. I mean, he's 32 or 33 now.
He's old, man.
Yeah. So, you know, but having said that, if there's harmony in the team, and that's the one thing that has come out of Red Bull last year, that they've been having a great time. The team's working well together. It's gelling. You know what? Don't mess with it. Leave it. It's not often that you get that situation, and particularly when you've got people come in there. I mean, that's what happened to Gasly before.
Yes.
He was going to come and he was going to beat Max. No, it wasn't going to happen. Never going to happen.
Not going to happen.
So, you know, you've got to almost accept that if you go to Red Bull, you're going to be number 2. And that's what Perez has done. This is the best driver he's ever had in Formula 1. It's working perfectly for him. He's able to win races on his day. He's in the championship fight to a degree. He's very much integral in the World Championship.
Very much so.
I wouldn't want to change anything if I was Red Bull.
No, okay, fair point. Out of the 10 teams, and we've only done it this way in alphabetical order, of course, you get Williams, Alex Albon coming back. I think is wonderful for him, because I think he's a really talented racing driver. Nicholas Latifi got better and better as the season progressed, and maybe this is going to be the season, you know, that he proves his kind of potential.
Listen, a couple of times last year he was quicker than George Russell. He out-qualified Russell a couple of times, where his first season in Formula 1, he never managed that. So listen, the guy obviously has got a work ethic in terms of, you know, he can, you know, do the long yards and keep his head down and get himself to a position where he could actually out-qualify Russell. That's nothing to be sneezed at, let's be honest.
I do agree with you, Gary. I still have a concern. I don't know that I have great respect for Jost Capito. I don't know if his bosses are really entrenched into this. I don't believe they're racers. You know, they're venture capitalists and investment people. This team needs to be bought out, and maybe with rumors of Porsche coming into Formula One or Audi or something,
Andretti or
whatever.
Options,
Williams needs to be run by racing people, and I don't believe
for
it
sure.
is.
I agree, but however, what I will say, Jost Capito, I think is the man for the job. Absolutely nothing wrong with Jost Capito. And if you are the investors, you know what, we never touched on it, but I mean, you bought that team. I think they paid 100 million for the team or something like. It's cheap.
It's for nothing,
actually, because with the way Formula One's going now, they've doubled their money. You know, should they sell their team tomorrow? So let Jost get on with his job. Let him get the car and the team competitive to a point. And if you are going to sell, you're going to make a lot of money. So I would just sit back and let him do his thing, because you're already in the money. You've lost nothing, actually.
I hope you're right, Gary. It just worries me that there's just not enough racing pedigree within there.
But I just want to go back to Albon as well. I I really think this is probably the best thing that's ever happened to Albon. I think he did pretty well against Max. I don't think he was as far off. And he was tough, but I mean, hell, who has been close to Max? But I think this is going to allow him to really just establish himself in Formula One, get to grips with Formula One without all that pressure. I think Albon, I do believe he's a talent. And I think this is exactly what he needs.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, don't forget, he got taken out twice by Hamilton.
For podium
places.
Twice, exactly.
So I agree. And he's going to go in there as a team leader.
Yeah.
Even though Latifi's been there longer. Yeah. The pedigree is different. I think, watch out for Albon this year.
Yeah.
Wonderful. There we go. First race this coming weekend in Bahrain. This coming Sunday, we're going to be at the Baron Fourways. It's going to be so busy. We've got VIP tables, we've got a DJ, we've got prizes, we've got some Formula One eyewear that we're going to be
getting back to
away.
normal. I like it.
It's getting back to normal. Now, before we look at tires and the circuit this week, there is one thing that we need to let you know when it comes to qualifying. Qualifying slightly changed from last year. Formula One has scrapped a long-standing requirement regarding tyre use for drivers starting a race from the top 10 positions. Formula One drivers who have qualified in the top 10 will no longer have to start in the tyres they used in the second part of qualifying. So I think this is going to be really great because we're going to have 3 sprint sessions now.
Yeah.
And maybe this is because we've got new tyres. We're not entirely sure how they're going to react from Pirelli, but I think it's also great, so that second session now is also going to be
a real session now.
It's going to be a really, really good session. Speaking of tyres, this weekend, of course, Pirelli, the brand new 18-inch tyres, they've got these fancy wheel covers in them as well. Alfa Romeo's look divine, and McLaren have just signed a deal with Google.
Okay.
So the Google colours are in the McLaren little, they're spinners.
Yeah.
They remind me of spinners. Remember the days of the spinners?
Yeah.
Let's have a look at that. There is the circuit. It's very, very abrasive, Gary, this circuit. Nobody really knows how these tyres are going to wear. The one thing that I have read that's come from Pirelli is that the degradation seemed to be consistent across all 3 compounds. Okay, so there wasn't as though C2 is lasting 10 laps longer than C3. They seem to be lasting like the same amount per tire.
Which was not really ideal in terms of the strategy, because all that's going to happen now, people are going on the fastest tire, and that's going to be that. Spend the shortest amount of time on the slowest tire, and
it could be track dependent because this is rather abrasive, but we'll have to see the C1, 2, and 3 that'll be there this coming weekend in terms of the tires. Man, and we're just getting so close. Okay, a couple of things that we should bring up. Formula 3, Formula 2, Formula 1, all this year have number 1 in their car. Okay, they're all Red Bull teams. Isn't that quite amazing?
I saw the picture the other day.
That's actually quite amazing. We mentioned it. Alpine going to be in pink this weekend. And this one I think is quite good. First time in 25 years. The last time was 1997. 2022. Yeah, I've got my maths right. We've got a Verstappen, a Magnussen, and a Schumacher.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
The fathers
Yeah,
and the
that's
sons.
it. Yeah.
Which is quite cool. I think we've got a picture of it here as well. There we go. Hey, Jan Magnussen, Jos Verstappen, and Michael Schumacher, Kevin, Mick, and Max.
Yeah.
Quite extraordinary. Yeah, incredible. I mean, who knows where it'll be 20 years from now. Sure, Gary. Sure, there was a lot to get through. I mean, the excitement is now. I think 1:30 is our first session tomorrow.
Yeah.
Races at 5 o'clock South African time on Sunday. Just to remind you.
Yeah, it's going to be great, Sasha. As I said right in the beginning, we don't actually know, and that's the excitement. We just got to now see how this thing plays out. It's an exciting time for Formula One.
Yeah.
It's really good to be an F1 fan right now.
Yeah, the weekend is upon us. To Henk, who has been helping and everything that has fallen behind us. So we apologize for that. First show of the year, we're allowed to get away with it.
Speak to your set builder.
Yeah, we need a new set builder here as well. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for all of your comments. There's tons of them. We'll go through them over the next couple of hours as well. From Gary and myself and the whole team, good night and let's go racing.